What's going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, and hopefully it is a nice day where you are. It is time now for the Tuesday edition of the Climate Update for Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. If you're new to the channel, this is where we do the daily climate update on weather records around the world, weather extremes, and of course the forecast for the United States. If you like this type of content, give this video a thumbs up when you're done watching and subscribe to my channel down below. Today we have several things to talk about. First, we do have some records to talk about. Then we are going to talk about a storm system that's about to enter the west coast and eventually then become something down in the southeast U.S., followed by yet another storm system that's going to hit the west coast. And of course, we'll talk about the weather elsewhere in between, and of course, a look at what's going to happen in the long range. All right, starting off today, we do have some temperature records that were shattered up in British Columbia in Canada. Warm January weather shattered dozens of British Columbia records. It got as warm as 18.2 degrees Celsius in Abbotsford, or otherwise 64 degrees Fahrenheit, and 14.3 Celsius in Vancouver, or otherwise about 57 degrees Fahrenheit. That is breaking previous records. Also, we actually have to go back a little bit. We have to go back a couple years. Listen to this. New Europe heat record in Sicily confirmed by the UN agency. And what happened here was the UN's weather agency, United Nations Weather Agency, on Tuesday confirmed a reading of 119.8 degrees Fahrenheit in Sicily 2 years ago as the hottest temperature ever recorded in Europe. So yes, remember the last couple of years, it's been really hot in Europe. Well, they actually go back and review some of these readings, and they're confirming, yes, 119.8 degrees, it broke a record as the hottest temperature ever in Europe. That's pretty insane. The World Meteorological Organization says the Sicilian scorcher was picked up on August 11th, 2021, at a time when temperatures were soaring across much of Europe. Alrighty, let's take a look at the current satellite picture across the United States. You can see some areas. They're seeing sun, which they have not seen in a while, but unfortunately, there is yet another system. It's not a big system, it's not a powerful system, but there's another system in the Great Lakes that is coming downward, and it's moving southeast. Some places in the Mid-Atlantic, I can count the number of days on one hand, that you've actually had a sunny day. Yes, there's some places in the Mid-Atlantic that have not had many sunny days at all this month, and unfortunately, today's just not one of them. Like here in Philadelphia, it's been cloudy all day, and incidentally, there is some low-level moisture that is coming off the Atlantic. Maybe a stray shower or flurry can be found in New Jersey, southeast Pennsylvania, even portions of Delaware today. This Clipper system is going to continue to come southeast. It's going to provide some showers to southern Virginia, North Carolina, before transferring into a coastal storm out in the Atlantic, but that coastal storm is going to exit stage right. Then when you take a look at the west coast, you do see the southwest U.S. There is a system that is moving into the picture, not a sizable system, but then you see the west coast, and this is where we have to change views. Take a look at the west coast here. We do have this powerful, strong system out in the Pacific that is going to start to impact the Pacific Northwest tonight through much of the day tomorrow, and for portions of California, it's going to be a very impactful system for you. You can see here on radar, first off, you see here's our Clipper system that is over the Ohio Valley. It's going to move southeast tonight into Virginia and North Carolina. Some rain showers can be expected. Maybe like around Cape Hatteras, you could see a little bit more steadier rain as that coastal low gets going, but generally that coastal low is going to exit stage right tonight. When we take a look at the northwest, we see here across Seattle and Oregon, there's already some showers impacting you. Look just off the coast of California as I zoom this in. You can see here, Northern California, you're going to be dealing with some first drops of rain, probably with just in maybe another 3 to 5 hours. So keep an eye out. This system's coming, and it is going to ramp up overnight tonight. You can see there are a wide array of warnings, watches, advisories up on the west coast, including high wind warnings. The high mountain terrain could see gusts 65 to 75 miles per hour with this storm system. Yes, it is really going to be an impressive one. And believe it or not, this is not the only one. there's going to be another one that comes into the picture next week as well. We'll get to that one in just a little bit. A little bit more on this current system. You can see, leading up to tonight, widespread 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, even could be locally higher amounts with, look at this, another 1 to 2 inches of rain tomorrow. And of course, in the Mount terrain, you could see snow, and a lot of it, you could see several feet of snow in the mountains, maybe 2 to 4 feet of snow in the higher elevations. And look at this, down in the lower areas, another 1 to 2 inches of rain tomorrow. And even as we get into Thursday, it's not going to completely clear. There will still be some showers. Now let's continue on here. You can see day 5. Look what happens on day 5, the precipitation forecast. Another storm system is entering the picture on the west coast. The current one transfers its energy down to the southeast, and an area of low pressure will develop out in the Gulf and come off the Atlantic coast. Day 6, you can see still precipitation ongoing to the west, but look at this here. You can see the Weather Prediction Center is now going with high probabilities of a decent amount, 1 to 2 inches of precipitation right along the Carolina coast. That's just day 6 and day 7. This is next week. You can see it continues. How much precipitation? Days 1 through 7. Well, look at this. On the west coast, because you have 2 systems, anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain with locally 6 to 8 plus inches of rain combined between this current system and the one for next week. And I must say, the one for next week does have some energy to it. It's going to be a much stronger area of low pressure. I will show you that on the models momentarily. Taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center, not a lot to talk about. Generally quiet conditions today. You can see not much going on. Day 2, not much going on. There is, of course, maybe a slight chance of thunder on the west coast tomorrow and again on Thursday, but no severe weather is expected at this point in time. If we wanted to look for any severe weather, we would have to look to next week with not only this current system that's going to go down to the Gulf of Mexico, but that stronger system next week, or stronger pressure-wise, that may have a severe weather threat with it on the west coast. All right, let's look at the models now. Starting off here with the NAM model, which just came in. You can see here's our Clipper system. It is going to make its way over to the Carolinas, and you can see here it does form into a low off in the Atlantic. It does actually go near Bermuda, but it exits stage right fairly quickly. You also see here, let me backtrack this, the heavy rainfall comes into California this evening. And it is really going to come down in some places. Flooding is definitely a threat for California, and eventually this rainfall is going to make its way southward down into Southern California as well. But you can see on the NAM, things don't really clear out. It remains very unsettled, showery activity, onshore flow, probably some fog at the coastal areas. It's just not going to be a nice picture for several days. Now take a look at this up in the northeastern states. Yes, another Clipper-like system, or you could call it like a backdoor cold front type scenario, does provide some light snow, showers down in Pennsylvania. This is now Thursday night going into Friday. And you can see we'll have to watch this. There could definitely be 1 to 2 inches of snow in some places in northern New England, especially in the mountainous regions, where you could see maybe as much as 3 inches of snow. And then at the end of the NAM run, take a look at this over Texas and the plains, central plains. Yes, this is that storm system that came on shore in California. That's its energy that's going to eventually make its way down to the Gulf. And look at this at the end of the NAM. Still showers and snow showers going on in the northwest U.S. Now let's go into the longer range with the GFS. Here's the current system entering the picture in California. There's that Clipper system exiting. There's that weak system that's going to go through New England on Friday. But look what happens here. We are now at 84 hours. Remember, the NAM stopped at 84 hours. This is the GFS perspective. And you can see here, there is another storm system just off the Oregon and Washington coast, and that's something we'll have to watch. But this energy right here, and I'm going to switch to the 500 millibar level so you can see the upper levels of the atmosphere. You can see this big strung out ball of energy. That's what we have to watch as it comes into the Gulf of Mexico. Just what will this do? Will it stay more suppressed? Will it come more north like the Weather Prediction Center has and provide a major storm for portions of South Carolina, North Carolina? And also another question still at play. Will this be a slow moving system? answers that we don't have yet, but one thing I am even more confident about today is this system will not have the chance to come up the coast. Why? Take a look what's going on here over New England. You can see there is a suppressing flow from a block that is preventing it from coming up the coast. There's nothing really to phase in. Should this energy up here somehow phase into this energy down here, then yes, you might be talking about coming up, but that is highly unlikely to happen and not going to happen at this point. Of course, we'll continue to watch it, but right now what we are more concerned about is this becoming a major storm off the Carolina coast, and it could be a severe weather threat as well for portions of the Gulf Coast and Florida. You can see here, this is convective activity right here. And then eventually that convective activity does develop the new low that forms in the Atlantic. And it's just a question of where is that going to set up. That remains to be seen. All right, let's rewind us. Look at the West Coast. Let's switch this to the West Coast view because I want you to see what's going to happen in the West. Here's our next system. Right now we are looking at Saturday. Take a look at this out in the Pacific. You can see here, there's a fairly decent sized system that gets going Saturday into Sunday, and that is eventually going to come on shore in California once again Sunday morning. You can see here, this is a fairly strong system. Look at this. The pressure with this is in the low 980s. Mountainous region, multiple feet of snow are possible for you. Even Southern California, you will be dealing with some heavy rainfall from the system before it comes on shore somewhere between California and Oregon, and eventually that low will make its way up to Washington. But look what happens behind that. And this is something new that's showing up on the GFS. Look down in Southern California. You can see there is a continuous fetch of moisture that will be ongoing. Flooding is definitely going to be a major problem. I want to show you combined up to next Wednesday from all the systems. Look how much rainfall we're talking about here. Anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain being, this is on the GFS model now. It is showing 3 to 6 inches of rainfall in Northern California, but look down around Los Angeles. Yes, that is 6+ inches of rain being shown near Los Angeles, even 3+ inches of rain down by San Diego. This is serious, folks. This is going to cause flooding, and if I advance this even further, well, obviously now we're in a more unreliable range, but there would be even more rainfall because the atmospheric river of systems is just going to continue. All right, let's also now take a look at the Canadian model. Let me set this back up again, and I want to show you what the Canadian model is showing for the rest of the United States. Here's the Canadian run right here. Let me rewind this. You can see our energy comes on shore from today's system, and then look down in the south. Here's what the Canadian is doing with that southeast system. Remember yesterday it was a bit slower. It got hung up down south. Now the Canadian says it still could be a major threat for the Carolina coast, but look what happens here. It does exit the picture a little bit faster, and it does try to go a little bit more northward, but again, it's really limited to how far north it can get unless something would phase in, and otherwise it's being blocked from coming far up to the north. Let's take a look at the GEFS. This is the ensemble of the GFS. This is the GFS run many more times, and you can see here, as I advance this, here comes our system into the Gulf Coast region. It does transfer its energy off the Atlantic coast. Right now we're looking at next Monday. And you can see here, it's a fairly strong signal for a strong storm system off the Georgia and South Carolina coast. You can see as I advance this, that storm actually gets stronger. It doesn't move terribly fast on the GEFS. I mean, it does advance eastward, but you have to look here. See this greenish color? That's the spread. That's meaning that there is a lean to the westward saying, wait a second here. Many models, and you can see these red numbers here. These are different members of the GFS saying this storm system is going to be more northwest or more west, and it's going to be slower moving. While at the same time, you have several members that say, oh no, it's going to race out to the east. Watch as I advance this. You can see there is a pretty strong lean to the west, indicating that the GFS is saying, hey, wait a second, maybe this will be a bit of a slower moving storm. And of course, if it is a slower moving storm, the impact on the southeast coast will be much greater. Check this out. This is precipitation mounts from the GEFS. Already it is showing well over an inch in some areas of rainfall. And you even see a speck just off the Atlantic coast of 2 inches of rainfall from an ensemble mean, which is extremely impressive for this far out. We're talking something that's 156 hours out. We're talking about something that's going to happen Sunday night. Well, it's going to enter the Gulf region on Sunday, and then Sunday night is when it's going to start to form the storm off the coast in the Monday. So, I mean, you're talking something that's very impressive here for this range, indicating, hey, there could be a significant storm with wind, heavy rainfall, flooding, and coastal flooding. And I don't think it's a question as to whether the storm's going to happen. It's just a question: will it be slightly more north, will it be a little more south, and will it be slow moving? Taking a look at the west coast, you can see here on the GFS, it is indicating that next storm for next week, it's going to happen. And this is actually showing it being a little bit more southward than the operational GFS, but either way, it is going to be a very wet period. And take a look at this. I got to show you this real quickly. Here's total precipitation forecast from the GFS mean. Look at this. The mean itself is showing widespread 3 to 5 inches of rainfall in California. Yes, this is serious. This is going to be a big deal, and you're definitely going to be dealing with flooding. One thing you do see through next Thursday is not a whole lot of precipitation in the Northeast. That is not a bad thing. After it being so wet back in December, so wet in January, it's a good thing that places like Philadelphia, New York City, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, you need a quiet period because you had so much precipitation. So that is a good thing. All right, let's move on now to the long range with the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Above average for places like Chicago, Wisconsin, Minneapolis. It's just going to happen for you. Slightly below average in Florida and places like Orlando and Miami. And the West Coast, with all this unsettled weather, you will stay below average. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon, Las Vegas, yes, temperatures are going to be below average for you. And of course, precipitation is going to be well above average in the majority of the West Coast, with the exceptions of the Pacific Northwest, like Washington and Northwest Oregon. Slightly above average in the plains, and below average precipitation for the Northeast, back across the Appalachian Mountains, with slightly above average right along the Atlantic coast, where that coastal storm is going to form at this point. And when we take a look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, well below average temperatures in the West Coast. And you can see above average again in the Great Lakes, Detroit, down through Philadelphia, back across through Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Missouri. Temperatures are going to be above average. If you're looking for winter, there's not really a big threat of any major snows at this point. And when we take a look at precipitation at that point, a little bit more in the way of precipitation across the Great Lakes into the Northeast. Not a lot, though. But you take a look along I-95, you can see slightly below average. West Coast, Four Corners region, going to continue to be above average precipitation. Same thing with the plains, and near normal in the Pacific Northwest for places like Washington and Portland, Oregon. Alrighty, folks, that does it for today's climate update. Hopefully you were very well informed of what's going to be happening over the next week or two across the United States, and hopefully you are prepared for what's coming in California. It's going to be a very messy situation. It's going to be a dangerous situation over the next week or so with these storms that are coming on the ground, which is already saturated now from other storms. Flooding, it's going to be a big issue for you. Start preparing. Prepare for potential power outages, flooding, and have a plan in action in case you should have to evacuate an area that is going to be dealing with flooding. And if you're in the southeast, start preparing for the potential for a significant storm that will form, with the chance of maybe a slowdown, a stall, and flooding, rains, and of course in the mountains. I should have mentioned this before. In the mountains of northern North Carolina, western North Carolina, and even eastern Tennessee, you could see a significant snow threat with that system if it does align up perfectly. Alright, if you learned anything, give this video a thumbs up. If you enjoyed watching this and you want to see more of my daily climate updates, subscribe to my channel down below. I will see you all again next time. Until I see you next time, have a great day, and remember, stay weather aware. Thanks for watching.